Jordan's here to talk with me, not to me, about the AFC West drafts that they just pulled off in 2021. Had some big drafts in this class. The Chargers, 9 picks, Broncos, 10 picks, Raiders, 7 picks. Chiefs had the least with 6 picks. There's nothing wrong with that. Brett Veach has had 6 picks in every draft that he's done and has seemed to do well with it. So we're here to recap kind of these AFC West drafts, what we like, what we don't like from these drafts. I think it's cool to keep you guys up to date with what's going on in the AFC West. You guys know what's going on with the Chiefs. Might as well keep you up to date with everything else. So, Jordan, who do you want to start with?
I think we should just start with the Chargers and work our way down in terms of picks. So Chargers, Broncos, and then Raiders. Wait, no, Denver had the most picks, didn't they? You
Denver
just
did,
said how
yeah.
many. Let's
Mm-hmm.
start with Denver and then work our way down.
Cool. I'm with that. The Denver Broncos had 10 picks in this draft, used 7 on defensive players, 3 on offensive players. Um, I don't know the best way to do this, Jordan. I guess we'll just go down the line from where they pick and we'll just
Yep.
give a little. Now, obviously, we'll have more to say about the picks at the top of their draft than they do at the bottom of
Mm-hmm.
their draft. But starting at number 9, Patrick Surtain, the second. Interesting pick here, considering the board. Justin Fields was there at the time that they were picking. They don't pick Justin Fields. They use every single second of the time that they were on the clock. They don't do a trade. Then they take Pat Surtain. I think we kind of had talked about this a little bit on the podcast we had following day one, but has your attitude towards the Broncos picking Pat Surtain at number 9 changed at all?
Not really. I mean, I love the player. I don't love the pick. And I think I
Yeah.
said that same thing that night. I mean, they didn't have a glaring need there. They had a strong secondary, as far as I can tell. I'm not a Broncos expert. I don't follow
Mm-hmm.
their roster moves that closely, but it seemed like the quarterback situation was the one spot they could really use some competition. And Teddy Bridgewater, he is competition in one way, but he's not like long-term competition and the guy that can take over. And Justin Fields, he's a guy that's going to be better than Drew Lock. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a hot take. That's not anything crazy. I think he's going to be better. He might be better right now than Drew Lock is. But Surtain's a good pick. The one that I thought was really interesting after they let Philip Lindsay walk, Javonte Williams,
Mm-hmm.
235. I thought that was a really solid pick. He is one of the more dynamic, just pure running backs in this year's draft. I think he has someone brought up like a Christian McCaffrey thousand type career, and I
Ooh.
don't think that's going to be quite the case. But I think Javonte could experience the best career out of all these running backs, including Harris, who did go to Pittsburgh at 17 or whenever the heck they picked.
Yeah, that is interesting. I do like Javonte Williams. He was pretty much like the number 3 running back I think everybody had,
Yeah.
with like Harris, ETN, and then Williams. They also traded up for him,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly, and I think that was kind of the big talking point at the time is, oh, they really traded up for a running back after passing on Justin Fields and drafting a cornerback, which I can see the reasoning behind drafting Surtain, which, now that their base is now nickel, essentially, when you think about it, they
Mm-hmm.
bring Patrick Surtain in. They've got Justin Simmons. They just got Kyle Fuller. I mean, their secondary is pretty nasty. It is.
Yeah.
They added some more secondary guys in here too. Caden Stearns at 152. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but I think that also adds a little bit into their secondary. I wonder why they're beefing up their secondary. That's odd.
And
That
I can't think of a reason why. I mean, it's not a
yeah.
can't think of any good quarterbacks in the AFC West. The Chiefs have Mahomes, I think, and then
Hmm.
what's his face is over. Oh, Justin Herbert. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of a good reason to do that. But the philosophy is either you can't really try to stop them, you can only try to keep up with them. And they kind of did try to do that with the offensive weapons that they've had, but they haven't figured out the most important position group
Yeah.
yet. So I'm still not very worried about the Broncos, but if they get a certain player that is disgruntled from Green Bay somehow, then Denver is like Super Bowl contender status. Like they're really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see what all happens there. But those first 2 picks and even third and fourth, even down to the 5th and the 6th, like Denver had a pretty good draft from top to bottom, I'd say.
Yeah, I say minus kind of their first 2 picks of the little, the questionable trade up, I guess. Javonte Williams still a good player. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing you worry about there is the value. Those are 2 both value picks at 9 and 35. But you look, Quinn Miners, I think that's a great pick. Um, you start looking at it, we heard he was going to go top 60, then he falls all the way to 98. Still a top 100 player as a
Yeah.
Division 3 prospect. That's nothing to, shake your fist at or be upset about. I think that he's going to be really good there. Baron Browning, Caden Stearns, a couple of guys to shear up that linebacker side with Baron Browning. Caden Stearns, again, another secondary guy. Jamar Johnson, Seth Williams, an offensive weapon that they added at 219, a guy that both you and I like. And I remember I was going through this draft and writing all these picks down, and I said, "Oh man, they got Seth Williams. I didn't see that when the first time that it all came through." And seeing that was kind of there's a lot of wide receivers that went to AFC West teams that I really like.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth Williams is one of my guys that
Mhm,
I scouted for that 100-100 series, and he is a big-bodied guy who can get. The thing is, can he get open? Like, can he beat press? Even though he has the physicality, does he have the speed to make up for it? I think he does. His pro day was solid. It wasn't anything crazy, and it wasn't underwhelming. Just a deep ball threat with a good catch radius, and a guy that I think could be a good player in the NFL. I was hoping that the Chiefs would get him because I thought that there would be like an immediate impact role for him.
mhm.
But to get him in the 6th round, man, I think I gave him like a 3rd or 4th round grade. To get him all the way down there is pretty impressive.
I just saw a tweet come through from Adam Schefter about the Broncos, ironically, that Jawan James suffered a season ending torn Achilles working away from the team facility. James's $10 million salary for the upcoming season now is in jeopardy, being that Denver no longer is obligated to pay him working out off site, which is, excuse my French here, that's shitty.
Yeah,
That absolutely sucks. That because he was injured off site, Denver doesn't have to pay him. They're not gonna have to. I mean, he's not gonna see a dime of that 10 million expected salary, which is absolutely awful for Jawan James. I mean, they did draft Quinn Miners. He's not gonna be a tackle. That dude's a guard
yeah,
or a center. I mean, he was a
yeah.
center in college. So I mean, that they didn't really draft a replacement in terms of then. But going back to their draft here, they did still bulk up on the secondary with Kerry Vincent Jr. No Jacoby Stevens is what I told you, but I still like Kerry Vincent. That LSU defense had some dudes on it, and for not
Mhm.
being all that good, which was kind of funny. But Jonathan Cooper, another guy, and Marquez Spencer, both edges to round out their draft. They're just trying to fill that vacancy that Von Miller has left.
Yeah, that's brutal, man. To lose a player that early in the offseason still, and someone quote tweeted, I think it was NFL Update because I have their notifications on. That's what I
Yeah.
was looking at. It said, that's the danger of not doing the team off-season workouts. Like if players do opt
Hmm.
out of that, not saying that's why it happened, obviously, but that's the risk you run because you're not working out with the team. You're doing it for you, not for the team. You get hurt, that's on you. And like these contracts aren't fully guaranteed. That's just
Yeah.
not how the NFL works right now. I don't think it ever will happen. It's really brutal, man. It sucks. You never like seeing a player get hurt, and even um, people who hate the Broncos with a passion. No one likes to see stuff like that happen. You want to play teams at full strength. You want to see teams succeed and fail with their full unit. Um, that's a Chargers thing. That man, I the injury bug has bitten them worse than any team in
Hmm.
the NFL really over the past several years. But to lose a tackle, it's always rough. The Chiefs know a thing or two about that, though.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's been a lot of injuries already, I think, kind of in terms of this isn't the first. I think this is like the higher profile one that we've heard of. And yeah, it's too bad. But the Broncos will have the work cut out for them now when now you look at, okay, who's going to play tackle for them. That'll be interesting. But and when it comes to the draft, I think they had a pretty solid draft overall. I think that the only two questionable picks were the first two there, but even like the players that they got were good players, like we've already said. So I think that moving forward, Denver could be pretty solid. I want the AFC West teams to be good again because it's a lot more fun when that happens.
Yeah, and you and I are both somewhat still rooting for Drew Lock to put it
Yeah.
together. And man, he looked better down the stretch last season. He was making less of those back-breaking mistakes, and they all come basically when he's freelancing. Like he is horrible at doing that because he just always makes the wrong decision. But they have talent. It's not going to be a matter of, oh, he doesn't have any help or anything. Cortland Sutton's coming back healthy, so the Broncos are going to be a competitive team, I think, even if they're not very good. The Chargers, who, man, they had a really good draft. I think it's the best in
Mm-hmm.
the AFC West, and they were already the second best team. I think they definitely got better, and I think they're going to compete for a playoff spot this year.